elephant in the room. Here I have 3 palettes with my name on it. What could that possibly mean? I have been keeping a secret from you for like almost a year, and it's kind of been killing my soul. And I'm so happy I can finally announce to you guys that I have collaborated with Revolution. I'm honestly kind of shook that I'm actually filming this video right now. It doesn't kind of feel real. I feel like it will only feel real once I see you guys actually buying these and seeing them in store, because right now it just feels like a dream and someone has to pinch me. I don't even know what to like say. I'm just like really nervous for this intro and for this whole video. It's gonna be a long one. So I'm gonna start off with how this whole thing kind of came about. I'm gonna give you guys all the goss, all the tea. There is no tea, but I just like saying that word. So basically, about a year ago or so, I got in touch with Adam Minto from Makeup Revolution. He is the owner of Revolution, and I just sort of started chatting to him over Instagram, and we had a meeting, and basically they asked me if I wanted to do a collaboration on some makeup products. And when I went into that meeting, I was kind of like, me? Are you serious? All of you guys who are subscribed to this channel will know that makeup was like the reason why I started my channel, and it always will live in my heart forever. Obviously, I do a lot of different things on my channel now, but I love makeup, and that's kind of like where my roots started. So when they asked me to collaborate with them, it just made all the sense in the world, because I've always wanted to create some kind of makeup product of my own. So we decided to create not 1, not 2, but 3 palettes for you guys. So this is the outer packaging of what the palettes look like. They have the metallic Roxi on it. They are all kind of like marble themed, because you guys know I love my marble. So in my little range, we have 2 eyeshadow palettes and 1 highlight and contour palette. This is what the packaging looks like up close. It just looks so cool. We went through so many different ideas, and we just ended up going with marble because I feel like it's very true to me and my personality. So we went for 3 different colors of marble to kind of like give you a sneak peek as to what was inside the palette. So the boxes are matte, like they feel really, really nice and smooth, but my name is like metallic and reflective, and it's just the coolest thing ever. So you guys can now get your hands on all 3 palettes on the revolutionbeauty.com website. They ship worldwide, so literally any of you guys can get it. I'm literally so nervous, but so excited at the same time. There's just way too many emotions right now. So I'm gonna talk you guys through every palette one by one. All 3 palettes are £10 in the UK. I will have the conversions to other countries so you guys know how much, you know, they cost. But I'm really excited that we managed to get it at £10 because it's just so affordable for what you get. So let's talk about the first palette. This is my Ride or Die palette. It comes in the most beautiful marble packaging. It has gold reflexes through it, and it's very reflective and just really nice. I know people usually bin boxes, but I'm gonna keep this. And this is what it looks like when you take it out the packaging. It is so, so cool. It's basically like a gold metallic reflective surface on the lid. There's just something I love about metallic gold, and I just really wanted to kind of create a full lid that looked like that, and it was very reflective and kind of acted as a mirror almost. So on the lid it says Roxxsaurus Ride or Die palette. I called it the Ride or Die palette because these are like my collection of my Ride or Die shades that I personally use every single day, and this is what it looks like on the inside. So I'm lost for words. I don't even know what to say. This feels like I've birthed a child, and now I don't want the world to see it in case they judge it. Honestly, I'm so proud with what we've created with Revolution. I love the color choices. I love the formulas. So inside this palette, we have 18 different shades. We have 3 different formulas. We have mattes, we have shimmers, and we also have the Foiled Frenzy formula. So if you guys have seen those in Revolution, they have a whole palette with the Foiled Frenzy. I love that formula so much, so I really wanted to incorporate that into my own palette as well. So let's discuss the shade range. We have quite a nice palette of lots of warm toned shades, but we also have some cool toned ones in there too. I really wanted to create a palette that was versatile but still had a lot of like pops of color and nice interesting shades in there too, for those of you guys who want to experiment a little bit as well. So let's discuss the color choices and the palette in general. So I really wanted the palette to be user-friendly. I wanted it to be sort of like my everyday sort of palette that I can just chuck into my handbag and use on the go. So we have a lot of like neutral colors, a lot of the basics, the sort of colors that you just need on your day-to-day basis. But then we also do have some more fun colors such as the yellow, we have the reds, the burgundies, the pinks, and we also have a really nice turquoise sort of color in there too. This is literally my idea of a perfect palette. It has everything in it that I need and more. Another thing that I really love about this palette is the fact that we actually were able to engrave the letter R into the matte pans of this palette, which I think makes it look so cool and so like premium because it has an actual embossing in the shades. The R engraved into the pans is the same as on the lid, and I just find that so cool. Like, my handwriting is in an eyeshadow palette. So let's just jump straight into swatching these bad boys to see what they look like on my skin. So the first shade we have is called Iconic. This is a super shimmery champagne shade. The next one is called Boo. It's a really nice base sort of color. The third shade is called Yas. It's a super shimmery gold. This is the foiled frenzy formula. The next one along is a matte orange shadow called Pumpkin. Up next we have the shade Cookie, which is a super matte brown shade. The next one is called Gingerbread. It's a red toned brown, which just reminds me of gingerbread so much. We then have the shade Firework. This is a shimmery coral kind of color. It is so beautiful. We then have the shade Honey. This is a matte yellow, which as you can see is super pigmented. We then have the shade Unicorn, which is kind of like a cool toned pinky sort of shimmer shadow. Next we have the shade Cola, which is again a matte brown. This one is a lot darker than Cookie. The next one is called Ember. This is a shimmer brown shade with a gold sparkle going through it. We then have the shade Cranberry. This one is again a foiled formula. It glides on the skin like a dream. Next we have the shade Ariel. This is kind of like a matte red color. I love this one so much. We then have the shade Sunset. This is a pinky sort of toned shimmer shadow with some gold reflexes. The next one is called Inspire. This is another matte shadow and it's kind of like a deeper pink tone. We then have the shade Mars. This is a copper foiled formula, which is so gorgeous. And lastly we have the shade Draco. This is a matte deep green shade. So these are all of the shades swatched on my arm. I feel like it's such a versatile palette. I'm going to talk you guys through all of the names as well and kind of like the inspiration behind them. So the first shade is Iconic. I called it Iconic because I just feel like it's the iconic sort of highlight for the inner corner, so that's kind of why I called it that. Not much else to it. The second shade is this one here. It's called Boo, and you can barely see it on my arm because it is literally pretty much my skin color, but I feel like this is the perfect base color, and I called it Boo because my fiance, his nickname is Matty Boo since he was like a child, so I thought I would honor him in my palette and call it Boo after Matty Boo. The third shade is this one right here, and I called it Yas with like a triple A. I feel like it's a word I use a lot on my channel, and I just had to call it that because when I look at it, it makes me want to say yes. The fourth shade is this one. It's basically like a very warm burnt orange, and I called it Pumpkin because it reminds me of pumpkins, and Halloween is like my favorite season of the year, so I had to call at least one shade after Halloween in my palette. Okay, I've just realized that I forgot to swatch the gold shimmer shadow from this palette, which is called Shook. It's this one right here, so I'm gonna swatch it for you guys right now. I can't believe I skipped this one, but here it is. It's right at the top there. Can you guys see it? This one is super shimmery. It's again the same foiled formula. Can you guys see it? It's like really reflective. I called this shadow Shook because again, I use the word shook quite a bit, and when I saw this color, it just seemed quite fitting because I was quite shook at how blinding this was. The next shade is this one right here. It's called Cookie, and I just felt like it was the perfect sort of cookie crumble kind of color, so that's why I called it that. The next shade along is this one right here. It's like a gorgeous red toned brown, and I called that one Gingerbread because again, I love gingerbread and I love Christmas time, so I definitely had to call one shade after like my favorite sort of dessert around Christmas time. The next one is called Firework. It's kind of got like a coral sheen to it, and I love it so much. I called this one Firework because it just made me think of fireworks. Not much else to it. My arm is like dying right now. I need a break. The next shade along is the yellow one, which is called Honey. I just called it Honey because I love a bit of honey. I love bees. I think they're so cute. So It was like the perfect shade name for this color. We then have the shade Unicorn. It is so shimmery, as you can see. It's kind of like a white shimmer shadow, but it's got a slight pink sheen to it, which is why I called it Unicorn, because unicorns are usually like white and pink. The next shade along is this one. It's a matte dark brown, and I called it Cola because my favorite drink is Coca-Cola. You guys probably know this. So yeah, I had to call this shade after my favorite beverage. We then have the shade Ember. This one is the next brown along. This one is a shimmer, and I feel like this paired with Cola will be so beautiful layered over the top of each other. It's kind of like a brown shadow with a gold sort of sparkle going through it, and it's so pretty. The next one along is another Foiled Frenzy formula. It's the red one right here, and I called it Cranberry because I love cranberry juice. The next one is this red here, and I called it Ariel because I love Little Mermaid, and this color literally makes me think of her hair so much. And you guys know I'm the biggest Disney lover, so that is why I called it Ariel. The next shade is this one right here. It's basically like a pink and a gold mixed together to create the most beautiful sunset inspired shadow, and I just feel like whenever the sun is setting and the sky is like really pink, it's so pretty, so I just thought of that when I was making this shade. The next shade is this one right here. It's like a pinky mauve kind of color, and I love it so much. I called this one Inspire because I feel like whenever you guys can use it, you can feel inspired to create something a little bit different and a little bit more creative than your usual everyday look. The second to last shade is this one right here. It's like the perfect true bronze and copper sort of color. I called it Mars because it makes me think of like space and stars and Mars. And I love that kind of thing. So I called it Mars after like my love for all things space. And then the last shade is this one right here. I called it Draco because it reminds me of Slytherin, and I'm such a Harry Potter fan. I actually belong to Slytherin. That's my house. So, you know, I thought I would pay tribute to my love for Harry Potter as well. Now, the next palette is called Color Burst. This one is all about being colorful and bright and just inspired to kind of play around with makeup and step outside your comfort zone. You guys know I do that a lot on my channel, so I thought this would be really great for you guys to try something new, you know? So this is what the packaging for the Color Burst palette looks like. It's like a blue marble with some copper reflexes going through it, and my name is also reflective on it too. This box is actually inspired by my phone case. I love my blue marble phone case. You guys see it a lot in my videos, so I thought I would kind of do something similar to it. And then the actual palette looks like this. It's a blue reflective lid again, so they all have the same kind of like reflective lid but in different colors. And this is what it looks like on the inside. I am so happy with this. Again, with this palette, all of the matte shades have the art embossed into the shadows, which I think is so cool. So at the top we have all matte shades. They are kind of like your primary colors that I feel like are necessary if you want to create a cool, colorful, sort of like rainbow look. I also forgot to mention that both of the palettes are kind of laid out in a strategic way. So I feel like you could create a really cool look with this palette divided in sixes. I feel like the first two rows work really well as a look because you have all the yellows, the oranges, and the reds that blend really well together. The second two rows would make another cool look because you've got like your pinks, your peaches, and your purples. And then the last two rows, you have your greens, your blues, and your dark browns, which I feel like would also make a really cool look by itself. But of course, you can use whatever shades you like and create whatever looks your heart desires. I feel like there's so much you could create with this palette, but you could also create some really cool wearable looks with it too. These are the two eyeshadow palettes side by side. I feel like they're so different, but they still have quite some similarities, and I feel like you could definitely use both of them together and kind of create looks side by side with both of them. So now I'm going to show you guys some swatches of the Color Burst palette. The first shade is called Timmy. This is a white base color. The swatch does not do it justice. It is super pigmented on the lid when packed on with a brush. The next one is called Lemonade. This is a super pigmented matte yellow. The next shade is called Lavender. It's again a matte shade. The fourth shade along is called Fetch. It's a super hot pink. Up next we have the shade Dinosaur. This is a matte neon green. It's so gorgeous. We then have the shade called Blue Lagoon. This is a super true blue matte color. Next we have Golden Hour, which is a shimmer golden shade. We then have the shade Bang Bang, which is a super hot orange kind of matte shade. Next we have the shade Princess, which is kind of like a coral pinky shade with some gold sparkle in it. We then have the shade Peaches, which is a super peachy matte shade. Up next we have the shade Botanical. This is a shimmer green. We then have the shade Cocoa, which is a super matte dark brown. We then have the shade Red Velvet. As you can see, it's a super deep red. The next shade is called Constellations. This is a super blinding shimmer champagne color. Next up we have Memories, which is a pinky purpley sort of matte shade. We then have the shade Royal, which is a foiled formula. Yet again, this one is a super deep red. We then have the shade Twilight, which is a matte navy color. And lastly, we have the shade Sky, which is a foiled frenzy formula yet again, and it's super shimmery. But as you guys can see, this palette is a lot more colorful, a lot more fun, perfect for summer. And I really just wanted to play around with some colors. It's quite out there for me, but I just wanted to deliver something a little bit different to you guys as well. So let me talk you guys through the shade names and the inspiration behind them. So the first shade we have is this one right here. It's a matte white. I feel like this is a must for a color palette because you want to be able to brighten some colors, also use it as like a base too. And I called this shadow Timmy because my cat that I've had since I was like 12 years old is called Timmy, and he's like my best friend, and he is white. The next shade is called Lemonade. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory as to why it's yellow, like lemonade. The next one is called Lavender. Again, pretty self-explanatory. It's a lavender color. Didn't really have anything else I could call it, so I just called it Lavender. The fourth shade in is called Fetch, and it's a bright hot pink color. I had to call this Fetch because I love Mean Girls, you guys know this, and it just made me think of Mean Girls because on Wednesdays we wear pink. The fifth shade is probably my favorite shade name, and I called this one Dinosaur after you guys. How cute. It's like a lime sort of green color. I feel like I just needed a green because not a lot of eyeshadow palettes have the color green in them. The next one is called Blue Lagoon. It's like a true blue color. I called it Blue Lagoon because Blue Lagoon in Iceland is like my favorite place to go to. The next shade is a gold shimmer shadow. I called this one Golden Hour because I love the golden hour. I feel like everyone looks their best in the golden hour, so I called it that. The next shade is called Bang Bang. It's like a really hot orange sort of color, and I called it Bang Bang because my favorite meal at Wagamama's is Bang Bang cauliflower, and it's kind of like an orangey sort of color, so it's called Bang Bang. The next shade along is called Princess. It's kind of, again, like a rose gold, kind of pinky color, and it's a shimmer, and it just made me think of like a princess because when I wear this, I feel like a princess. The next shade along is called Peaches. It's a peach color, and actually it's kind of funny because I called the previous one Princess and then the next one Peaches, so it's kind of like Princess Peaches, like from Mario, Princess Peach. The next shade is a shimmer green. This one is called Botanical because I love anything botanical. I love botanical print as well, so that is why I called it that, because it's green. I'm not very creative with my names. The next one along is called Cocoa because it's like cocoa powder, like chocolate, kind of like dark chocolate because it's very dark. The next shade is called Red Velvet because it was very fitting. It looks like red velvet cake, so I went with that. The next shade is kind of like a lighter gold version of the Golden Hour, but this one's kind of more like champagne-y, and I called this one Constellations because it kind of reminded me of like stars in the sky. The next shade along is kind of like a purple plum kind of color, and this is a matte shade. I called it Memories because it reminded me of a wallpaper that my parents had in their house when I was growing up, and it just kind of like brought memories back, so I called it Memories. The next shade is this one. It's a foiled frenzy finish as well, and it's kind of like a plum shimmer shadow. I called this one Royal because I don't know, it just kind of looks quite royal to me. The second to last shade is called Twilight because it's like a dark sort of navy color. It makes me think of the night sky, and I love Twilight, like the movie, so I had to call it Twilight. And the last shade is this one. It's kind of like a blue toned silver color, and it's very shimmery. I called it Sky after my cat Sky. There's literally 3 names in this palette that are called after cats, so I'm sure you guys can judge what kind of person I am just by that. And the last but not least palette is my contour and highlight palette in collaboration with Revolution. I love the packaging of this so much. Again, it's a matte finish, and then it's got the reflective copper Roxi on it, which I've actually handwritten myself, which is so cool that it's actually on the packaging. And now to match the packaging on the outside, the palette is also rose gold / copper. It's got the same reflective tin, and I am obsessed with this. I'm sure you guys want to see what it looks like on the inside, so this is it. I'm so excited. Also, please excuse the fingerprint in one of the pans. I just couldn't help myself. So here we have 4 different contour products and then 4 different highlighters. I am obsessed with the formula of both of them. They're so creamy. The highlighters in particular are so blinding. I'm wearing it right now and it just looks amazing. I feel like if aliens exist, they can definitely see my highlighter from space right now. So when I was creating this palette, it was very important to me that we had a lot of variety in shade range. Obviously, it's quite hard to make a contour palette that's suitable for every skin tone that there is, but I feel like I made it so that it's quite inclusive of most shades. We went from a really light contour powder, which is actually too light for me to even show up. It's kind of my skin tone, but I feel like this one is gonna be great for my babes out there who are a lot paler and just generally find it quite hard to find a contour powder that isn't too dark and too orange for them. If you are one of those people, then I got you, girl. I got you. We then have the second pan along, which is my actual contour shade, which I love and have used for so long now. You guys didn't even know. I'm wearing it right now as well, and it is just so cool tone. We then have these two along, which I feel like is definitely great for people with deeper skin tones. And also, if these two are too dark for you and you're quite pale, you could always use them as a brow powder or even eyeshadow. And then on the other side, we have the highlighter side. So we have 4 gorgeous blinding highlighters. They're so creamy, so finely milled, but still really shimmery and vibrant. The first one we have is this one right here. It's kind of like a cool toned highlighter. It's kind of got like a pink undertone to it. The next one along is my personal favorite. I'm wearing a mix of this one and this one today. This one is kind of like a yellow toned champagne warm highlighter. It's like the perfect everyday highlighter, I feel like. The next one along is a lot more like golden and just perfect for anyone that's like wanting that golden sort of goddess look. I love this one so much. And then the last one is this one here. I personally can't use this one as a highlighter myself just because it would be quite dark on me, but I wanted to incorporate a highlighter that would be perfect for someone of a deeper skin tone into this palette. Even though I can't use this as a highlighter, I love to use this as an eyeshadow. It is so pigmented. So this is my little contour and highlight palette. I am obsessed with it, and I wanted to keep it the same size as the rest of the palettes so you can kind of like travel with them really easily and they stack up quite nicely. That was a lot of information to take in. I feel like my voice is going, but I really want to show you guys a little demo of my palette in action. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys the look that I'm wearing right now, where I used my Ride or Die palette and my contour and highlighter palette. And if you guys want to see a look that I've created with the Color Burst palette, then make sure you guys head over to the Revolution YouTube channel to see me playing with a little bit more color. But anyways, without further ado, let's have a little play with these girls. Okay, so the first shadow I'm going to be using is the shadow Boo, which is the second shadow in, and it's like the perfect sort of base color. I like to use this all over the lid before I apply any of the other shadows because I feel like it just creates a really good base and canvas for the rest of the shadows to kind of blend into. So I'm just taking that on a big packing brush and kind of blending it all over the lid. We want it to kind of create a nice canvas to work on top of. I've got to say, for a nude shadow, this is actually a really pigmented one, and I'm not just saying that because I'm biased. It actually is really good. I feel like it really covers up my sort of like veins on my eyes as well. So now that our eyes are primed, I'm going to take a transition color and I'm going to take the shade Cookie, which is this last shade right here. This is like the perfect neutral tone sort of crease color that I feel like works so well for so many different looks. So I'm just picking that up on a big blending brush and I'm just literally going to blend this in to my lid with quite a light hand. I mean, you could definitely kind of build this shadow up and make it super pigmented, but because it's only a transition color, I'm not picking up too much of it. We just want to use it to kind of create the illusion of a more deeper sort of crease. Also, if this was the only palette you had on you and you really wanted to contour, I feel like you could use this sort of shade as a bronzer as well. I'm going to use it on the tip of my nose to kind of contour a little bit. Next up, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to take the yellow color, which is called Honey, and I'm going to take it on a little pencil brush like this. I'm then just going to start kind of blending that in to the inner corner because I'm going to kind of create like a sunset sort of smoky eye. So I feel like using this sort of color in the inner corner is a really nice way to kind of incorporate color into your eye look without it looking too like overpowering. I absolutely love wearing yellow on my eyes. I just think it's such a nice way to wear color, but in a more wearable way. So I definitely urge you guys to try yellow on your eyes if you haven't before. I'm then gonna take the shade Pumpkin, which is this one right here, and I'm gonna take this on a big blending brush once again, and I'm just going to kind of start buffing that in to the very center of my crease, kind of in between the brown and the yellow that we've just placed there. This again works really well as a kind of like all over crease color, or even all over the lid, to be honest. It's just like the perfect warm toned orange. Also, I love the fact that I called it pumpkin. I'm so happy with that decision because I love Halloween so much. You guys know this. As you can see, those two colors blend in so well together. I literally had to do no work at all. It was all done for me. Next up, I'm gonna take the shade Inspire, which is this one right here. It's kind of like a pinky mauve sort of color, and I love it so much. I'm gonna use this on the outer crease of my eye. I feel like this will blend really nicely into that orange as well. Oh my god, look at that. I'm actually kind of shook every time I use these palettes. I've been using these palettes for months now, and every sort of look that I do, you guys are always like, oh my god, how, like, what did you use? And I've been using these palettes and I just couldn't tell you guys, and it was so frustrating. But yes, look at that pigmentation. Look how easily that is blending in as well. When I was choosing the colors for this palette, this is something I definitely had in mind. I really wanted all of the colors to be able to work together really easily so that anyone can pick up this palette and use it straight away without, like, you know, being a master at makeup. I definitely don't think I'm personally amazing at makeup. I am self-taught, but I just wanted something that reflected my personality and what I love in a palette, and I wanted to basically make that for you guys so you can use it really easily too. So now that all of my transitions are into place, I'm gonna move on to one of my favorite shadows of this palette, and that is the shade Yes! This is the third shade of the palette. This is the Foiled Frenzy formula, so it is super metallic, and I would personally recommend to use your finger with these because I feel like the warmth of your finger really melts the product really easily onto the lid. But if you really want to, you can also use a brush for more precision, but I just personally like to use my fingers. They're the best. A small demo. Look at this. That is insane. I'm just gonna use my finger to apply that to the inner half of my eye. I'm not quite sure what we're gonna put on the outer corner, but we've got plenty of choice to choose from. I'm actually obsessed with the foiled metallic shadows because they're just so easy to apply, but they give you such a cool look that I feel like a regular shimmer shadow just couldn't. I mean, look at that. That's like giving me an instant cut crease, and I didn't even cut my crease. What the hell? Also, these shadows are really easy to build up as well. If you want like a subtle eye, you can do, but if you want it to be like really in your face, then you can build it up quite a bit. Okay, so for the outer corner, I've decided I'm gonna use this shade right here, which is called Gingerbread. Again, it's like one of my favorite shadows because I just love autumn and I love gingerbread, and it just reminded me of gingerbread, so I had to name it that. I'm just gonna buff this into the outer corner. This is such a pretty like red toned brown. I love this shadow so much because it makes my eyes really pop because I've got blue eyes, so it's kind of like on the opposite side of the spectrum of the color wheel. We've created this shade specifically red toned because it is like my dream red toned brown, so I'm obsessed. I'm then gonna go back into the shade Yes. I feel like every time I say that shade, you have to say it like that. You have to go yes. So I'm just gonna kind of go over and blend it in to that orange shadow, the gingerbread one. I'm then just gonna take the shade Pumpkin once again, and I'm just gonna run that along my lower lash line just to kind of tie the whole orangey sort of warm toned vibe into the whole of the eye. Damn, this look has really turned out quite colorful. I mean, there's so many shades that are so much more neutral, but for some reason I just wanted to play with all the colors. But to be honest, there's so many neutral colors in this palette, and I'm sure you guys can see and kind of imagine what sort of everyday looks you could create with this, so I thought I would play around with the more colorful and interesting colors and just kind of show you guys that this palette is very versatile and it's not just an everyday sort of natural palette. You can go to town with it as well. Now lastly, for the eyeshadow, I'm going to take the shade Iconic. This is the perfect inner corner highlight for me. I use this sort of inner corner highlight every single day, and it is just gorgeous. It's so shimmery and reflective as well. I mean, look at that, guys. That definitely packs a punch, to be honest. Ugh, I am actually obsessed Look at that brow highlight. Look at it. Okay, so this is my finished look using the Ride or Die Roxxsaurus X Revolution palette. I'm so happy with how this turned out. I love every single shadow in this palette and I hope you guys like it too. I'm now gonna pop on some eyeliner and lashes and I'll be right back to do my contour and highlight. Okay, so my eye makeup is finished and it's time for some contour and highlight action. I'm so excited for you guys to see how amazing this palette is. So when you'd open it up, it looks like this, as you guys saw. Now I am obsessed with everything about this. I was so particular with what kind of shades I wanted in this palette. So first up, I'm gonna take this shade right here, which is the perfect contour shade for me. I personally don't really use these two because they're a bit too dark for me, but I do like to use this on my eyes instead. So I'm gonna take that second shade of the contour and just pop that into the hollows of my cheeks as I usually would. As you can see, this contour can be really, really dramatic if you want it to be, but I'm gonna try and blend it out a little bit to make it a little less dramatic. This is honestly like the perfect cool toned contour color for me. I just feel like it really sculpts your face, but without it looking too orange, and it just looks so natural on. I'm also gonna blend that up into my forehead and temples as well to really complete that bronzy sort of look. And now it's time for the highlighters. So today I think I'm gonna use a combination of these two highlighters right here. These are like my perfect two everyday shades. So I've mixed up the two highlighters on a little brush and do I need to say anything? Do I need to say anything? This is literally the most blinding highlighter I think I've ever applied on my face. Like, and I'm not just saying that because it's mine. I just feel like a glazed donut, which is everything I want to look like. So I mean, a little bit definitely goes a long way, but girl, if you want to blind them astronauts in space, knock yourself out. So yes, that is the secret I've been keeping from you guys for like almost a year, and it's so good to finally be able to tell you guys. I hate keeping secrets. But yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling now because I feel like I could actually talk for hours about how much I love these palettes and how excited I am. If you guys are new and haven't subscribed already, make sure you do and click the notification bell button as well to stay notified of every time I post a new video. But that is all. Thank you guys so much for being here and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye! Mwah.